Most people think pain begins with conflict. It does not. It begins when you vanish without warning.
No argument, no revenge, no final explanation, just a pattern they trusted suddenly cut off.
From the outside, absence looks quiet. Inside their mind, it lands like missing ground in darkness.
They never truly respected the gift. They respected the access, and access looks cheap until it disappears.
This is where it always begins. Familiarity, dull value, and constant presence starts feeling ordinary.
The more available you become, the less they examine what your presence actually means to them.
That is how people get mispriced, not because they lack worth, but because they remain too reachable.
The mechanism is simple. The brain automates whatever arrive reliably, then stops examining its emotional weight.
So they stop noticing your effort, your patience, the quiet burden you carry without applause.
Picture a crowded New York office, where one person always absorbs tension before it spreads across the room.
Nobody praises that person for long. They simply build their stability around them and call it normal.
Then one day, that person steps back. No announcement, no scene, just absence where reliability used to live.
And suddenly the whole room feels exposed, not because disaster arrived, but because the safety net left.
Is the first wound. Not heartbreak yet, disorientation. Their hand still reaches for the old pattern, while the mind expects the usual rescue to return.
They open the chat. They check the phone. They wait for the rhythm to restore itself.
But nothing returns, and that silence begins reshaping the emotional architecture around them.
Your patience was never natural law. It was a choice, and they forgot choices can end.
Once the first shock settles, something colder begins to unfold inside them. Private interrogation.
Now the mind turns inward and starts replaying old evidence with a level of precision they cannot control.
They revisit conversations like surveillance footage, searching for the moment everything quietly started breaking apart.
At first, the questions are scattered, but soon they sharpen into one agonizing loop.
What changed? What did I miss? Why now? Why did they finally stop?
These questions do not arrive in the safety of daylight. They arrive when the room is finally still.
Usually at 2 a.m, when distraction grows weak and memory starts speaking louder than pride.
That is when neglected details return with new weight and a meaning they can no longer dismiss.
The ignored message. The half-listening reply. The promise they never truly intended to keep.
In Berlin, a founder rereads old texts during a midnight funding crisis and notices a pattern.
The loyalty they depended on had been warning them for months. They simply refused to respect the warning.
Now the contradiction becomes painful. Their self-image says they were fair. Your absence suggests something else.
And when identity collides with evidence, the mind starts hunting for a culprit with ruthless focus.
Slowly, dangerously, the answer starts turning inward.
Human beings can endure loss more easily than unfinished meaning. That is why silence becomes unbearable.
An open story keeps scratching at the mind long after emotion should have already moved on.
They do not always want you back. Sometimes they simply want the file closed.
They want one sentence, one reason, one clean explanation to reduce the pressure building underneath.
But pressure expands when no explanation arrives, because mystery keeps the mind emotionally unfinished.
They do not check your profile because they are suddenly romantic. They check because the loop is still open.
In Toronto, an ex scrolls through your social media between meetings, pretending it means almost nothing.
Then they check again that night. And once more the next morning, with the same hunger.
Not for romance, for resolution.
The human mind is built to complete patterns, and when completion is denied, attention becomes trapped.
Every unanswered detail turns into a hook, and those hooks sink deeper when pride blocks direct questions.
That is why closure feels merciful. It releases tension and gives the mind permission to stop searching.
Your silence does the opposite. It keeps the machinery running long after comfort should have returned. That is where the balance shifts. They need something from you, and you give them nothing.
When truth becomes inaccessible, the ego begins writing fiction to protect whatever dignity it still can.
Not elegant fiction, defensive fiction, the kind built to preserve self-image at any cost.
Maybe you were unstable. Maybe you were cold. Maybe you only wanted attention in the first place.
Those stories are not designed to understand you. They are designed to shield them from themselves.
Because the honest alternative cuts deeper than any excuse they could comfortably live with.
Maybe they drove away something valuable through neglect, so gradual that it barely looked dangerous.
Most people would rather rewrite memory than revise themselves, because revision demands humility.
In Los Angeles, a group of all-female friends jokes over dinner that the distance was mutual and the table laughs.
Later that night, the same person checks your profile in total silence, hoping to feel less exposed.
That is how fragile those stories really are. They work in public, then collapse in private.
Every memory that contradicts the narrative forces another patch, another excuse, another quiet internal repair.
And patchwork truth is exhausting to maintain when reality keeps pressing through the seams.
The less you say, the harder they work to stabilize the version of events they prefer.
The less access they have, the more imagination must carry what honesty refused to carry.
That burden becomes its own punishment.
Then comes the stage they never expect, where you begin returning without actually coming back.
A voice in a hallway, a jacket in a crowd, a phrase from someone who is not you.
Suddenly, memory enters the room before logic has time to build a defense.
Make no mistake, this is not nostalgia. It is intrusion.
Emotionally loaded memories do not knock before entering, and they rarely arrive at convenient moments.
In Chicago, a sharp lawyer hears your favorite phrase during a hearing and loses focus for seconds.
Only seconds, but enough to feel your absence rushing back through the body all over again.
That is the cruelty of phantom presence. It arrives on its own schedule, not theirs.
They cannot command it, soften it, or predict when it will strike next.
Distance was supposed to make you smaller. Instead, it made your imprint harder to control.
Ordinary objects become ambushes, familiar places become traps, and quiet moments become openings.
In Madrid, someone freezes in the metro after catching your perfume on a stranger passing by.
For 1 second, the body remembers everything the ego was desperately trying to bury.
That is when forgetting stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling like a battle.
Eventually, the real correction begins. They start seeing your value through the shape of loss.
While you were present, you looked common, because endless availability always dilutes perceived worth.
But the moment you disappear, the internal market corrects itself with shocking speed.
Scarcity clarifies everything their comfort had concealed, and your absence suddenly becomes brutally informative. Only now do they notice the chaos your presence used to absorb, organize, soften, and quietly stabilize.
In Dublin, one quiet employee leaves, and deadlines start exposing hidden dependencies no one wanted to see.
That is when the ledger shifts, not only emotionally, but functionally. And function is hard to deny.
They realize you were never decorative. You were structural, and structural losses hurt differently.
Placement is rarely immediate. More importantly, it is almost never equivalent.
This is where regret thickens. It stops flashing briefly and begins settling into the nervous system.
They did not lose something worthless. They mishandled something rare, then understood too late.
In Copenhagen, a careful message arrives months later, and the tone is noticeably softer now.
Not because wisdom suddenly bloomed, because reality priced you more accurately than they ever did.
Then comes the final stage, the mirror.
Your disappearance stops being a mystery about you and becomes a diagnosis about them.
Why does this keep happening? Why do people eventually pull away? Why does patience always end here?
Patterns are harder to dismiss than incidents, because patterns point toward a common denominator.
That is why this stage is dangerous. It does not threaten comfort. It threatens identity.
In Seattle, a charismatic manager loses another loyal person and finally suspects charm was never enough.
Some people look into that mirror and retreat immediately, because the truth costs more than denial.
Others stay there longer, long enough for the old self to start cracking open.
Maybe they change. Maybe they repeat the cycle. Either way, that part no longer belongs to you.
Real power begins when you stop financing your own depletion and let silence reveal your worth.
So if you leave completely and build a life that never has to beg.